Himaragi Yukina keeps tabs on the fourth progenitor, Akatsuki Kojou, as it is her facility. He soon finds out about this, but they come to a friendly agreement where she can observe him. The two find themselves tangled with a combat deacon who ends up beheading Kojou in front of Himaragi. Asagi Iba is in her office when she feels the building shake and the system warns that the place is under attack. The combat deacon is tearing his way inside the man-made facility after taking care of Kojou. Lion Armada attacks the elsewhere Himaragi was trying to wake an unconscious Kojou when he responded to her voice and woke up. She explained that he had been dead, but his wound had started to heal enough to bring him back. She started to argue with him about his rash actions, making it clear that nobody would be sad if she were to die. He was swayed by her emotions and pushed her down, whispering about how she mattered more than she thought. The Buoyant Armada's attack brought their moment to a halt. The Island Management Corporation is responsible for the management of the island. Aides to him and he accepts him, and Raggy find out that the SOG might be in trouble, as the Keystone Gate is under attack. He calls her to confirm that most of the defense is gone and the building is almost destroyed. She tells him that criminals are on their way to the anchor block and, upon researching, she finds something that piques everyone's worry. Him, Raggy, and Kojou prepare to go after them, but he is unsure of his abilities, thinking that it may not be the right choice. Himaragi offers him her blades, and surprisingly enough, he accepts. Kojou was reluctant to use his full abilities to help fight the deacon. She called him out for lying and convinced him that he was a good person, and that he must make the right decision. After getting clarification, he pulled her close and licked the drop of blood away from a small cut on her neck. He then began to act on his vampire instincts and buried his fangs into her neck, sucking more and more blood. Due to that, the deacon had just made his way to the treasure and was about to declare his triumph, when Kojou interrupted him. The deacon was after the body of a saint stored in a pod the whole time, and Kojou talked about it. A deacon clarified that Itagami Senra used the same thing as a human sacrifice, which was crucial in the making of Itagami Island. He then told Kojou to back off and stated that the fight was between the city and the church and that Kojou had nothing to do with it. The deacon Kojou asks the deacon if it was worth it to risk the lives of everyone on the island, to which the deacon responds that, in the grand scheme of things, such a small number makes no difference. After the negotiations failed, the deacon ordered his Startate to attack, leaving Kojou with no other option. This time, things are different since Kojou now has control of his familiars and their powers. He seems confident. The two begin to clash, with Himaragi going against Astarte and Kojou fighting the deacon. The deacon realized the challenge and unleashed his full power, revealing a golden armor made of energy. He decided not to hold back when he saw the skills of Battle Kojou and unleashed a bunch of explosive magic, putting the whole city on notice. Thanks to his assistance, Himaragi got enough time to harness the full power of her spear. After attacking Astarte together, they finally broke through her defenses. After she was knocked down, it didn't take much for them to knock out the deacon as well. Well, the seriousness in the air is brought into check when Kojou takes a small sniff of Himaragi's neck before proceeding to suck Astarte's blood instead. Yaze is seen talking to a crow elsewhere, revealing that he is more than just a normal high schooler. Himaragi's purpose was always to be Kojou's lover, not someone who would observe him for the sake of a mission, as the crow points out. Himaragi prepares to leave her place, thinking that she had failed her mission of keeping Kojou in check. Natsuki is out in the field taking care of a humanoid panther, luckily avoiding her own death. He recognizes her as the Witch of the Void when he sees her power. She also mentions that he was there working under Christopher Gardos. Kojou's mother is coming to visit them. He enters the room to ask Nagisa about something, but accidentally walks in on him changing clothes. Nagisa later tells him that she was there faking her own death. She gets her weapon sent back to her, good as new, indicating that her mission was far from over. The entire class has asked Asagi and Kojou to take on the roles of cheerleaders for an upcoming sports event. Asagi then takes Kojou aside and asks him which event he is planning to play in. Kojou talks in a non-enthusiastic manner, saying he will go with whatever the class decides. They are surprised to find out that they have been paired together to play badminton. Asagi is surprised by the arrangement, but she doesn't say anything. Kojou seemed perfectly fine with it, while Natsuki was still in her investigation of Christopher Gardos. She quickly revealed one of his informants to be a criminal demon who had not registered himself. Astarte, who now works for Natsuki, quickly defeated him. She looked deep into Gardo's movements, and wasn't really sure what he was trying to achieve. Asagi changed into her sportswear and a friend complimented her looks, telling her that Kojou would probably appreciate it a lot. Kojou decided to leave the training facility after seeing that Asagi was late. He heads out to get a drink, but is attacked by two unknown familiars. He was hesitating to use his power, but Amagi arrived just in time to take control of the situation. Miragi explains that the lion-like beasts were Shikigami, who are mostly messengers. They aren't meant to attack anyone. He picks up an envelope left by someone, but before Himaragi can explain it, a Seijai comes in and misunderstands their position. Ter tells Kojou that the envelope was from Lord Dimitri Voltaire. She points out that, based on past events, Voltaire is a key figure of the warlord dominion located in Eastern Europe. She anticipates that Voltaire is most likely a subordinate of the first progenitor. She clarifies that, in order to be a principality, he must be a pure-blooded vampire, meaning Voltaire belongs to the lineage of the first progenitor. The envelope contained an invitation for Kojou to a specific party and mentioned that he should bring. She tells him that it's a common trend in the West to have a partner or lover accompany you to parties. He is in a bit of a pinch since Seijai and Nagisa aren't valid choices, so he initially intends to take Natsuki as his date. She offers to go with Himaragi after a small tussle. She has made her decision, but she is unsure about wearing a party dress as she does not have one with her. Much to their convenience, they find a package laying inside the room from the lion. Kojou opened a box at the King organization to find a dress with a card mentioning Hiragi's measurements. After they read it out loud, they both realized it was one of Hiragi's perverted little games. Soon, the two of them found themselves at Oceana's grave, where a party boat had been parked. Kojou attended the event dressed in a suit, and Hiragi was still a bit embarrassed about her dress. After asking if she looked okay, she pointed her spear towards Hiragi. Every time he tries to comment or reply to her questions while they are having their conversation discussing each other's appearances, someone from the boat watches over with a disturbed expression. In comparison to other attendees, they realize how completely out of place they are when they finally head inside. The search for the host, the first progenitor, continues, but then someone randomly attacks the two. Walter reveals himself from the dark with a formal introduction and tells Kojou how pleased he is. He was to meet Kojou, and addressed him as Khalid Blood, recognizing his position as the fourth progenitor. However, they didn't have time for anything else because Kojou was attacked by Sayaka Kurosaka. She told him to get away from Himaragi. Sayaka was surprised to see her childhood friend Himaragi in that place. She explained that, much like Himaragi, Sayaka was sent as the observer of Volterra, and even the party invitation was part of her plan. Himaragi officially introduced Sayaka. Sayaka, a former roommate of hers and a dancer of the Lion King organization, makes her position clear and threatens Kojou about being close to Himaragi. She cautions him not to go down the same path as she did in the past. A Seijai is in her room talking to Yaze about the recent incident involving Kojou. She misinterpreted the envelope as a confession. She tells Yaze that Kojou's romantic life is none of her business. He then tells her not to keep herself at a distance and even advises her to use seduction to win Kojou's heart. Walter, recognizing the familiar situation, cautions a Seijai not to repeat the same mistakes she made in the past. Kojou is shocked to find out that the item inside of him belonged to Aurora once. Voltaire reveals that he not only knew Aurora, but they were lovers. He insists that, since he inherited her powers and consumed her blood, Kojou allow him to express his love through him. After an awkward silence, Himaragi finally speaks up and asks if the invitation had a purpose. She asked him if he was really willing to form a bond with Kojou. Walter makes it clear that his feelings are completely friendly and he wishes for an alliance, which retrieving the fourth progenitor would solidify. Christoph Cardos, the new leader of the Black Death Emperor faction, assassinated the former leader, which is another reason he was mentioned. The situation is dire, as Walter confirms that Cardos had already infiltrated the island along with some of his underlings. The goal, Sayaka explains, is to retrieve the fourth progenitor. After agreeing, the group decides to revoke the sacred treaty and have Volteri take over the warlord's domain in order to throw the first progenitor out of power. Ragi then volunteers to take on Gardos in place of the fourth progenitor. Asaki is trying to seduce Kojou when he wakes up the next day and finds her close to him. He tells her it is foolish to try such methods and tries to shake her off. They fumble and he accidentally gets on top of her, just when Nagi and Hiragi enter the room. Himaragi doesn't react to the situation and leaves. A Seijai, seeing her reaction, asks Kojou what Himaragi really meant to him. She even calls him out, suspecting that Himaragi had some dirt on him and was forcing him into things. Sayaka observed Ragi closely and found that he wasn't very happy with his life, mostly because it had to do with Kojou. He later tried to talk with Himaragi to explain the incident. She understood and told them to be careful, since moments like those are prone to making his vampire instincts activate. They set their personal matters aside for a while and headed to Natsuki in hopes of gathering crucial information on the Black Death Emperor faction. She asked her if she had any information on the group. While Natsuki and her companion were there, Estarte offered them some tea, surprising the duo, as they were not expecting Natsuki to own her. Natsuki clarified that Volterra was more than capable of handling himself and that the Black Death Emperor posed no threat to him. She made it clear that Christoph Gardos was not someone they should try to catch. Natsuki was asked why they were so eagerly after him, to which she replied that they had to capture Gardos before he made contact with Voltaire. She explains her goal to be an ancient weapon called Nalakavra, which is a pointless effort according to Natsuki, because it isn't usable. Nalakavra was reportedly stolen even before they were having this conversation, but Natsuki isn't worried because the weapon is simply beyond understanding. Now that Natsuki has been apprehended, the main focus is on finding the weapon he used, rather than on him. Before they leave, she warns Kojou about Walter and that he may attempt to consume him for the first progenitor's powers. Upon hearing this, Kojou talks to himself about controlling his familiars better, which Yuzei then asks to follow them. Himaragi then asks if he would like to take her blood again, to which he declines of course. She leaves in a sour mood as if she was looking for a positive reply. Kojou then talks to a Seijai about Nalakavra and they head to the student council room, all the while Yuzei keeps his tabs on them. Before they can learn any more about Nalakavra, a biological weapon, someone enters the room. Kojou asks Yuzei to follow them, thanks to hiding. Kojou and a Seijai head to the rooftop in an attempt to calm him down. Sayaka arrives, angry about how Kojou has been treating Ragi. She cuts his stomach open, unable to bear his behavior anymore, so that his power leaks out in front of a Seijai.